Welcome back to Embracing the Journey. And today we just want to talk about our story with COVID-19. I mentioned this a little bit last week, and we want to, again, clarify some things. Number one, we are not medical experts or experts in any sense of the word on this. And our experience is very unique. And we in no way want to undermine other people's experience. The reality is this is a deadly, devastating disease. And our community is really struggling and suffering under the weight of this disease. So no, we are praying for our community. Those of you in our church family, we're praying for you. And for us, we're very grateful because our symptoms were pretty much on the mild side, but we still want to just share authentically our experience with that. So what was the hardest part of this COVID quarantine and then turned into isolation for you?
Right.
And maybe I should say, so November 15th was the start date, and then you got out on December 6th. I got out on November 29th, but it was 4 Sundays. It was almost a month. I mean, this felt like it lasted forever.
It did.
So what's the hardest part for you?
Well, I think, and just thinking about this, I've still had a hard time just articulating why I struggled so much. You know, I think there was a lot of emotion. There was a lot of feelings of isolation, not only like physically in our home, but like mentally feeling isolated and feeling like my family had the plague and that people would be like, were afraid of us. And, you know, I had to fight that fear, or I had to fight that thought of that people were afraid. And, you know, I'm so thankful for our community because they loved us so well through this, you know, our church family and then our community group and just showing us love. But I think there was still, for some reason, this battle in my mind that I had to fight. And I just...
Can I add something there? Sure. And I think just to speak to that community, like there were people, and we're not going to list the names because there's honestly several, that would like intentionally show us, we are not afraid of you. Like we want to speak against and act against any type of leprosy type mindset. So we needed that. Because even though they were tangibly showing us that, it was still hard. So we're thankful that they were battling with us.
Absolutely. So again, just I'm still kind of wrestling with like, there was just some days that I just felt like I was surviving. I was just coasting. And I remember journaling and being frustrated with myself because I thought, here I am. We just shared a few weeks ago on Embracing the Journey, and you asked me a question, and I was like, oh, just go to the rhythms, go to what you know. And I was thinking about that in one of the weeks of the isolation, and I'm like, why am I not doing that? I know what to do, and it was just the motivation wasn't there. And I just really battled with that. And so I can't remember what day it was, but I kind of tried to, okay, Whitney, you know the rhythms, do at least one of them. And so getting in the Word, I was like, okay, I'm going to wake up earlier, I'm going to get in the Word, and then I'm going to exercise. And just after that, it was like, okay. Like there was just a sense of like, I felt a little better. I mean, I was going nowhere. There was no reason to take a shower. There's no reason to get ready. But it was just like, it was something that I knew that was back to like a form of rhythm that helped me, you know, my soul. That's what we tell Liam and Oliver. I do this because it helps my soul. And so, you know, just to be authentic, there was just days that it was just a battle. And so some of you might be facing that, and just, again, we're so thankful that our symptoms were mild. So we weren't really dealing with that, I guess, physically. I mean, my symptoms came treated honestly like the flu. I was hurting, I was achy, and that was just for a few days.
But it's crazy because she had the worst symptoms and she also tested last positive. So it was like, we are never getting out of this. Like, you're the last one to fall and it's worse. Like,
it's because I had all to absorb yours and Liam and Oliver's, and anyway, but so mine actually was the worst symptoms out of all of you guys. I mean, obviously we don't know how hurt, you know, for the boys because they don't talk about that, but anyway, so I think that's just like, I wanted to be real. Like even still, I'm kind of trying to figure out how to like articulate why it was such a battle. I think just the isolation. I'm a people person. So that was really hard. But I just think, you know, again, back to community, but I would have friends just show up and then we have a screen porch, just come to the porch and just say, hey, I love you. You know, and that was just another way to fight that battle of like feeling like I had plague or leprosy or something like that. So that was really good.
That's awesome. Yeah, and I love what you're saying about it's hard to articulate, because I think you're right. It is really hard to just put words to the struggle. I know one day in particular, I just got in an argument with God.
Yeah.
We had the argument about 3 different times, actually 3 times during the day, same argument. And finally, at the end of the day, the Holy Spirit was like, journal about this. And I was like, no, we fought about it, and I just want to be mad at you. You know?
Yeah.
But when I did journal, honestly, God just put me in my place. And he was like, this is what I'm trying to teach you, like, learn it, you know? And I needed that stern approach, honestly. But it's just hard. And I think, you know, one thing that you talked about is like, let's take it day by day, and that's how I am. Let's take it day by day. But then when you're on day 17 and you feel like day 28 is coming, it's like, well, how do I take it day by day on day 17 when I can't, am I going to be out by day 28? You know, it's just, that was the weight of it. And you just feel trapped, right?
Right. Oh, yes.
It's like you can't go anywhere. Like, it was so fun to go outside, like in our backyard. It's like, this is awesome. Or to your mom's house to like outside and, you know, ride the toys that my parents have given them or that your mom has given them. And it's just like, freedom. Yeah. Okay, back to house.
We don't care how cold it is. We're going outside, you know, to play with the boys or let them get some energy out. Because I think they were probably tired of us too.
Yes.
At some point.
Oh, there's no doubt. So maybe like, I think for me, I definitely had an underlying frustration that I battled throughout it all, and anger and over different things. But I think a lot of it was just feeling trapped, feeling like I'd been benched almost by God. I think that was what my argument was about. Like, you put me on the bench. Like, why'd you put me on the bench? And then also the way my brain works, I really like to know when something's going to end. So like the Tuesday that I knew I was going to be going back to work, and I felt like, man, I've sacrificed. I'd taken a day off, like really tried to lean into family time. And then that was the day that you were the sickest. And that was the day that I was the maddest. Because I'm like, and not at you, but just at the situation, because I'm like, I've given all this stuff. Now it's my time to go back to work. You hear the selfishness. So God's really been refining me. And I think the farther I get from this, the more clarity I will learn about what he's trying to teach me. Maybe, you know, so.
Well, I mean, I think in any hard situation, I like to look for, okay, God, what are you trying to teach me through this? How can I serve others through this? I mean, that has been something that I have done, you know, back to when I had the worst tragedy of my life, you know, when my dad died. It was just like, I had to use that experience to help other people. That's how I was going to get through it, you know, just thinking that. And so obviously this is not to that scale, but it was still hard. And so it's like, okay, Lord, I'm trying to see you in it, and I'm trying to see how I can serve. And I really battled. I battled seeing the good. But I would have people tell me and remind me, it's, you know, enjoy your family time. And I did, you know, but there was still just this underlying battle.
That's really good.
And so I, even now coming out of it, I'm still trying to look at like, okay, Lord, you know, what was it? And just even us coming out now, we're having so many people within the last few days around us who are now battling it, or who are now in isolation or in quarantine. And so God just revealed to me yesterday, like how people served you, that it's your turn. You know, it's your turn to make sure people don't feel bad or feel like they have the plague or feel isolated, and now you serve them. If that's bringing food, if that's writing a card, you show.
Really
show me now. And so for me, that's a little bit of like, okay, I can do that, you know, and I think that was good for the soul. And just, you know, I obviously do not want what's happening to happen, but it's like, okay, God, how do I utilize this to honor you?
It's good. And to serve others.
And to serve people.
I love that perspective that you bring, because it gets the focus off of us and onto others. I think it's super wise. And maybe to end, and if there's anything you want to add to, I would just encourage you to focus on what you can do instead of getting fixated on what you can't. Because there are definitely days and times that we were just fixated on, we can't do this. But I think our healthiest moments, and I just want to say this was up and down, and
day by day, I feel like.
Day by day, probably focus more on what we can't do than what we can. But it's like, okay, so we can't enjoy our in-person gatherings, which we both love. I mean, you missed 4 straight Sundays.
It was very hard.
Yeah, and unheard of, I think. I don't know if you've ever done that before. And yet we've loved our online gatherings.
Right.
And we have a great team that's put that together.
Oh, yeah.
So it's like, let's lean into that.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was saying, okay, I can't work as much. Let's lean into family time.
Yes.
And so just focusing on those things that we can do, the rhythms,
Right.
and just trying to see past like, okay, I can't do this, but what can we do?
Right.
That was super helpful.
Yeah.
And again, struggled immensely with
Right.
it because of the underlying frustration and anger.
Yes.
But those were the good moments where it's like, okay.
Right, yeah. So a few things that I would just, maybe say to encourage you is just, find those rhythms that help your soul. We've talked about that. I've talked about it many times.
Yeah.
I've always referenced the book Rhythms of Renewal by Rebecca Lyons. I think it's really good. And I think it's no coincidence that I've been reading it during this season, because whether I was doing it or not, I knew what I needed to do.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe there was those days that I just struggled, but when I did it, I did feel better. And I don't say that as cliche or lightly. I do think it does help us to find ways that refuel our soul. And in this season, we have to find that. Mm-hmm. And so, look for that. What is that for you? Go to what you know. Being in the Word, if that's that's what refuels us the most.
Yes.
So do it even if you don't feel like it. And then also just to know, like, you don't have the plague. And I think this is a disease that is just, there's so many unknowns. It's if you get it, you don't know how you're going to react. There's a lot to it, but I think the biggest thing that I would say is let people rally and come alongside you.
That's good.
I think that's in any time in life, but especially right now when something about, I can't put my finger on it, but something about COVID-19 has created us to feel alone and feel isolated. And I want us to fight against that. And so show the people around you how to come alongside you. What do you need? Ask people. I think this is also, COVID-19 has created kind of some embarrassment of like, if we have it, and there's nothing to be embarrassed by. It isn't uncontrollable.
It's really good.
And so just to speak truth over that, if this is you, please reach out to your community. If you don't have community, let us help you find it.
Yes,
Whether it's at public church or somewhere else, we just want you to find community.
Really
so I think that's just some battle and a lie that I had to fight, of the feeling of being alone, and I wasn't, and I'm not. So just to speak that.
I love it. It was awesome. Well, thanks for being so authentic. You said something about, I'm not trying to be cliche. There's nothing about you that's cliche. And
well, I quote that book often. So,
but it's changing you.
Yeah,
and Jesus is using it.
It is.
So hopefully this was helpful. If you have anything you want to talk about more, reach out to us, because like you said, Whitney, you set the tone. We just want this experience to be used by Jesus to benefit others.
Right.
That's our heart. So we love you guys. See you next week.
Bye.